All right, what's going on, Lions fans? Welcome to Season 8, Episode 11 of the BC Lions Den podcast, and also CFL Kickoff Eve. We are glad to have you with us, whether you're joining us live or catching us on the replay. I'm Brian Walrishan, joined as always by my co-host Cole McGarvey, and we have our new co-host joining us for the first time in an official capacity, Mr. Bryce Coots. Before we get started, if you enjoy our content and you haven't subscribed yet, please head over to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@BCLionsDen, and hit that subscribe button. We've surpassed 100 subscribers, so let's keep that going and get the show out to more eyes, and it will really help us grow. We also recommend that you watch the show on YouTube, since it's the best place to join the conversation and participate live. BC Lions are, of course, on a bye week, but there's lots to talk about. First of all, roster cuts that happened last week, and we have an updated preliminary depth chart to discuss. Players also arrived at practice in Surrey yesterday to a newly renovated practice facility, and by all accounts, they love their new digs. So we'll take a look at that as well and discuss just how lucky this team is to have an owner like Amar Doman. Then today, the Lions dropped a new road uniform dubbed Pacific Frost, and by all accounts, the reviews are very positive. I do have a bone to pick, and we'll talk about that a bit later. We'll also review the TSN Top 50 list, which Nathan Rourke sits atop of, and debate some of the players that are on that and some that are not on that list. Lastly, everyone is throwing out their preseason power rankings, so we thought we'd throw ours into the pool and get your approval or disapproval. But mostly, we want to encourage you to participate, so head over to YouTube or Facebook. Links are on the screen, and get your comments and your takes in. All right, let's welcome in Cole McGarvey and our new co-host, Bryce Coots. Bryce, as the new kid on the block, we welcome you. And we look forward to your contributions, sir.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being a part of the show, guys. I really appreciate you guys bringing me on in a co-host capacity, and it's going to be a lot of fun this season. I'm looking forward to talking Lions with you guys.
Absolutely. Cole, how's things?
I'm doing very well. I'm really excited for the show and just to talk some more CFL and Lions.
Generally on a bye week, I like to take the week off, but since it's week one and we got some stuff to talk about, I figured, wow, what the hell, we'll do a show. Let's start with the Lions cuts. I don't think there was any really big surprises with the cuts they did make. Hergy Mael was probably the biggest surprise, but when you kind of look at everything, his age, how the younger Canadian receivers stepped up, I don't think that you can really question that release. Unfortunate for Hergy because he had a great camp and a great preseason. He's probably still got some football in him, and I think he'll find a spot once somebody's in need of a Canadian receiver. Bryce, let's start with you. What were your thoughts on the cuts that went down?
Hergy Mael was probably the one that really stood out to me, I think, out of the group. We obviously talked a bit about on the preseason finale show when I came on as a guest, but I really think that just speaks to kind of what me and Cole were talking about, was the young Canadian receiver depth this team now has. And I think it made it more difficult for him to make that roster when you look at his, age, you look at a bunch of different things there. I think it just made it a conversational piece for the Lions where do we keep this individual and potentially block some of the growth of some of our younger guys getting an opportunity earlier on in the season. Another one for me that I was kind of surprised by was Jeremy Lewis, the linebacker. I thought he was potentially going to make this roster, whether that was backing up one of the two spots for Sankey or Hladek. But clearly the Lions felt they had guys in-house that were, a better option. So, yeah, those were probably the two I would say that stood out the most to me.
Cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there was too many surprising ones. I would say maybe one that was a little bit just Deontay Ruffin, a guy that brings in a little bit of CFL experience. We talked about the secondary. But from all accounts, I know we've had, is it Lauren in the chat that's actually been up at training camp? And he's talked about, is it CJ Colden? And I forget the other fellow who's been performing pretty well. So by all accounts, you kind of just start to lose your way down the depth chart. Probably not too surprising to see Ruffin get released. But just with the CFL experience, you maybe thought he was one of the guys during the offseason that maybe could latch onto one of those spots.
Yeah, when you look at the depth chart, I don't think there's any real surprises there. I don't know if Gary Peters is going to be ready to go week one. We haven't really heard any update on him. He's been kind of in and out of camp and getting some maintenance on that knee. I'm assuming he'll be ready. TJ Lee, Finley, Kent Jr., and Colden are going to round out that secondary to start the year. I mean, to me, we talked about it in the preseason about Lee and Peters, and you know, those guys are coming to the ends of their careers, but I think they still bring value. TJ Lee, I think in particular, is a guy that can really command that unit out there and demand some accountability from some of the other players and get them in the right positions and be a teacher out there as well. A lot of guys refer to him. I think Neil McAvoy called him, a second coach out there. So those kind of guys are valuable in the locker room. And I think, along with Gary Peters, as long as Gary Peters can stay healthy and contribute, then I have no problem with Gary Peters being on the team. But we did talk about, if he can't contribute, is it worth it to keep him around instead of starting to develop that next guy? So I think in the secondary, I didn't really expect, or I didn't see too many surprises, and we kind of go with what we got to start the season.
Yeah, for sure. I think now, like, obviously, as you said, and we've talked about it, it's just staying healthy for those two, right? And I think we hopefully see with Robert Carter Jr., like, hopefully we get an impact player like that in a year one that's like a guy that we're not accounting for, right? Like a Ruffin right now, who are maybe a little under the radar right now. But I still, I for all the good that I think both those two do, I still have a lot of like on the field, what do we get from them and how can we get from them? Because I do agree that even TJ a little bit more maybe than Gary, of like how much he does bring, even bringing along a guy like Jackson Finley who can lean on a veteran like TJ Lee and help him, giving him confidence that he knows he has a halfback like a TJ Lee. But maybe could that be, go too far if TJ Lee can't be the same TJ Lee that he has been? So I still am a little bit skeptical, and I want to see hopefully me be proven wrong and those guys rising to the occasion, because I think they deserve to be a part of this run that hopefully ends with a Grey Cup, because they've been here for so long.
Yeah, it'd be great to see TJ Lee get a Grey Cup. I don't know if Gary Peters has one or not. I don't think he does.
I don't believe so.
Was he with the Hervey Edmonton team that won a Grey Cup?
What year was that? 17?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think he might have been on that team.
He was either on that team or he was on the team that lost in that East final to Ottawa in that snow game. He was either on one of those two teams. One guy that with that DB, room that I think will be really interesting once he's healthy is Christophe Beaulieu when he gets back, because he was the starting safety last year up until his injury, which we didn't really know what we had yet in Jackson Finley. Now you add him back. Does he move to half potentially and now gets in that rotation as a halfback? Does he move to a corner spot maybe? Like, how do you get him into this lineup once he comes off that 6-game injured list?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's, sorry, Brian, not to cut you off, but he's familiar playing that role as well. Played both corner and half at Laval. So a player that you hopefully are high on, a starter, and how do you kind of, use those two as weapons on the defense?
Kameni also had a strong camp as well. So, I mean, now you're looking at another national DB back there. So, that has ratio implications as well. If the Lions can get 3 of them in there, they could really add some nice American pieces at other positions. But, Ruffin wasn't the only veteran that they brought in for experience, and they cut Marquise Bridges before camp even started. So they got to be somewhat happy with some of the younger guys that they brought in and kept on the roster. Let's just take a look here for DBs. What are we looking at here? TJ Lee, Roland Kent Jr. I mean, they still got Jet Elad coming as well. That's another Canadian that they could work into the roster at some point. So, they got some options with that back there for sure. As far as the rest of the defense goes, I mean, I don't think there's any big surprises. I think everybody's pretty much where we kind of had them, to be honest. As far as Jeremy Lewis getting released, he just got surpassed by Goforth and McKenna. Both of those guys had strong camps, and Jeremy Lewis wasn't noticed as much. And I think that's unfortunate, because he did have a great camp last year, impressed a lot of people, spent most of the season on the practice roster, and I think everybody was expecting him to take that next step. But I don't think he I just think he was outplayed by those other 2 guys. And I know the Lions really like Raylan Goforth as well. They've been trying to get him for a couple of years out of the University of Washington there. And they finally got him into camp after he took a year off of football last year. He starts the season on the practice roster, but he's a guy to keep an eye on, especially if there's any injuries in that linebacking core. Hladik, we didn't see much of him in the preseason. I'm interested to see what they're going to do at that spot. Right now, I've got 3 Canadians lined up there on the depth chart. But it'd be interesting to see what they can do there. Even Gagny could slide over there at some point, maybe, if they want to keep a Canadian there. But haven't really seen a lot of Hladik I don't think he played at all in the preseason, did he?
No.
Yeah,
he didn't.
So I don't know if he's hurt or he just was one of the fortunate ones that didn't have to play. I'm not sure. But we'll see what happens when they start the season next week. This is just a preliminary depth chart, kind of our best guess of how things are going to line up on opening week. But yeah, other than that, I don't think there was really too many surprises. I was happy to see Amani Bailey stick on the practice roster. Interesting as well that they kept 2 kickers around, and they have that new spot this year. What are they calling it? Reserve roster, where you can actually pay somebody a full salary to stick around on a reserve roster, and I think they're protected there for the practice roster. I suspect what they're going to do is have to put him on full salary and put him on the reserve roster. But definitely, I think we have a kicker of the future with McNamee at the moment. How do you think they're going to work that?
Bryce, do you want to go?
Sure, I can go with this one, guys. I think it makes the most sense because I don't know. I still just, with Whitey's comments that he made when they're making all these rule changes, I don't think you want to go into a season next year in the offseason where you're really auditioning kickers that you have no idea about. Like, at least with having McNamee here, you're going to see him in practice. Whitey's going to get to work with him and help, coach him up. He almost gets a free year of coaching from one of the greatest kickers in CFL history. And it's no different in some respects to what Whitey got from Paul. When Paul was our kicker, we had Whitey here, and eventually they did trade Whitey, and he ended up going to Edmonton. But, I think McNamee is their heir apparent idea here. Like, Bob says down there at the bottom of the screen. I think it's a great idea, and I think it's a smart way to do it because now then next year you don't necessarily have to worry about that spot.
Yeah. Greatly said. I don't have to say much more. I think it's awesome to be able to get him in. It's kind of like you hear the saying, like, you'd rather be 1 year early opposed to 1 year too late. You could probably say the same thing about maybe a TJ Lee, Gary Peters, but we're off that topic now. So being 1 year too early and kind of having a guy in-house, I think is better than being 1 year too late and kind of maybe rushing this process next year late in the year.
The other thing is too, he's a global, and we can only have 2 globals on the roster, so that makes decisions have to be made elsewhere to get him on the roster. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they work that. He was on the practice roster last year too, so obviously the Lions like him. He performed well in the preseason, kicking 70-yard kickoffs, and we haven't had a kicker do that for a while. So it's nice to see. Offensively, I don't think there was really any surprises. Poisson had a great camp. DeMontenac had a good preseason game and showed some progress in camp before he got hurt. Senegal had that big game in last week. So I don't think you can keep Mayala and expose one of those guys on the practice roster because they'd get snapped up instantly. A young Canadian receiver would be gone. So I think it just made the choice for them. Offensive line, it looks like we're going to start with what we got on the depth chart here. I don't know. I didn't really notice Dejon Allen in last week's game, which is good. Anytime you don't notice an offensive lineman is a good thing, I think. But Woodruff, Yates, Couture, Slugger, Allen is, I think, what we can expect to start with. Josh Donovan seems to have that right tackle backup spot locked up. Pearson, Mr. Versatility. I've got him at center because he played there last year a lot when Couture was out. So Una, didn't really notice him a lot. Haven't heard his name mentioned a lot. I don't know if he's made strides, if he's better than he was last year. We'll have to see with him. But I think the offensive line is pretty much as we have it here. I don't know about the receiving spots. I don't know where Gatoy's going to line up and Poisson's going to line up, McInnes. But yeah, I think we're pretty strong. I think the running back area is going to be pretty strong with Butler and Horvath. Didn't see much out of either of those two guys, but I think that was by design. Didn't want to give them a lot of touches in the preseason, keep them healthy. I don't know. You guys got any other comments? One of the guys that I will mention is Stanley Thomas Oliver, defensive back. He came in late to camp, and he ended up making it on the practice roster. So they must like what they saw from him as well.
Yeah, talking about the offense a little bit more, Brian, and talking about the offensive line specifically, obviously, I feel like that was all eyes on them coming into the offseason with the departure of Darrell Broxton. Yep. Things have kind of maybe settled now with everything coming out of Kamloops and training camp and all that sort of stuff. For me, I wouldn't say I think high expectations is the wrong way to say it, but like maintain the same floor that you did. There's going to be a little bit of shuffling around. Obviously, you have a replacement now or a new player. Shouldn't say new player. Corey Woodruff just playing a new position. Slugger, who was there and kind of around the starting lineup at times last year, but you have Brandon Yates kind of coming in, Dejon Allen, you hope to stay healthy. I believe the Lions were the least sack team last year. I think it was 20 or 22 sacks, low 20s anyways. So if you can kind of maintain, as I said, the same floor, not to the same ceiling, and try to get a little bit better than kind of the floor that the last year's group had and kind of build on that continuity, hopefully, and get better, I think that'll go a long way. As I talked about last week, I think Buck Pierce and his scheme will also benefit them and help them in terms of getting the ball out of their Nathan's hands so quickly, the run game, and then kind of being a threat going east-west opposed to north-south as well.
Question for Bob Medill from Kamloops is Demontanak 100% after getting nicked up in preseason too? I think he's going to be okay. I saw him in the locker room video yesterday. Didn't have a sling on or anything like that, and he still got, just over a week to get right.
I don't know if you guys saw. I believe he changed his number as well.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he did.
He was wearing 16 in one of the videos.
Yeah,
16. Oh, okay. Brian Burnham, huh?
Yeah. So maybe stepping into those shoes, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. I don't even. He may not even dress. I mean, some of these guys are on the roster, but they may be scratches. They may be, they may not make the 45 on game day.
For those guys, it's going to be big time. They're not going to likely be starters. Can they provide special? Exactly. That's the way to get a jersey on game day. If you're not a starter, can you provide any snaps on special teams?
I think Passant's going to start either in front of either one of those guys, to be honest. So
yeah.
They're going to have to cut their teeth on special teams and get some rotational work in for sure.
I think obviously depending on ratio and how that works out, Passant obviously maybe is maybe the, I don't know if you want to say front runner right now, but I would say keep an eye on Seven McGee as well, folks. It seems like he's had a pretty good camp. I know he's kind of penciled in as their starting returner, but it seems like they really want to get him involved in terms of like the jet sweep game and kind of like that gadget weapon on offense.
Another guy I was glad they kept was Jaden Williams. I thought he had a strong preseason as well, and I was glad they found a way to keep him around, even if it is on the practice roster.
I think for me, guys, on this offense, looking at one particular position or player that I'm going to be very interested in for the first half of the season is probably Donovan at right tackle. I get he's a backup, but given the fact that Allen can't seem to stay healthy, knock on wood, and hope he does this year, that is going to be an interesting situation to see if he gets thrown into the fire real quick. Can he produce as a starting right tackle? And to, Cole's point, keeping that floor of sacks at that 10 or, that 20 range kind of in there. Don't all of a sudden let Nathan take a bunch of extra hits. And I will say, when we look back at last season, Nathan saved that offensive line more times than not with his ability to get out and escape and those things. But if this group can at least keep that consistency, even if we, have guys that have to step up and play, like Donovan's the interesting one, because when he showed up at camp, I was pretty excited to see like, hey, I had heard some good things, let's see what he does. And the fact that he's made it as the backup right now to Allen's, I think a pretty good sign.
And really, we got to make it to Labor Day. We've got Joshua Coker sitting in the wings as well, who's a solid option if he's healthy. So as long as we can get through to Labor Day and get some guys healthy and back, I think we'll be okay there. Isaiah Cage is another guy that could be
veteran insurance. Yeah.
Veteran insurance as well, yeah. But he's on the left side. But as long as we can stay healthy and get some guys, get some depth guys back, I think we'll be all right.
I got to post something to you guys because I just posted our bold predictions for every CFL team going into 2026. My prediction for the Lions was I think we have 4 1,000-yard receivers. Do you guys think that's kind of feasible?
It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
That's
It was bold predictions. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm just saying with Nathan Rourke basically being a yearly 5,000-yard passer. Last year, you look at we had 4 receivers over 750 yards with Katoy, Berryhill, McInnes, Hatcher. Katoy kind of banged up, Berryhill banged up. Obviously, it comes into health, but I think at one point these years, hopefully the Lions have 4 1,000-yard receivers.
I mean, that's a lot of spreading the ball around, you know, and a lot of guys that have to stay healthy for that to happen, I think. I mean, hey, it's possible. I mean, people are talking about Nathan throwing for 6,000 yards at some point in his career. So, you know, those guys.
It doesn't happen every year. That's why it was kind of like a bold prediction as well, too, right?
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments on the roster before we kind of move on, or nothing?
No, I think I'm pretty good.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about what the players came home to, I guess, on Tuesday. Anybody that's ever been to the BC Lions practice facility, especially in the last few years, knows what kind of state of disrepair it was in. The locker room was cramped and stuffy, and the facilities were very old. They've done some lipstick kind of pig kind of stuff with new paint here and there, but what they did this off season, and I know what actually went into this because my company actually did the mechanical and the electrical on these renovations. So I've been seeing pictures right down from the studs to the finished product. I don't think you can understate what this means to the players. It shows commitment by ownership. It shows commitment by the organization that we're going to look after you guys. We've all seen the Lions report cards that have come out the last couple of years from the CFLPA. This has got to bring those grades up a little bit, if not quite a bit. And when you realize that the Lions may only be in this facility for 2 more years as the city of Surrey is looking to build a hockey rink, and that piece of land is like, which they lease from the city of Surrey, that piece of land is one of the prime spots that they're looking at. The Lions may be forced to move and build their own facility, and I think that's kind of in Amar Doman's plans anyway. But for him to go out and spend, I think it was around upwards of $250,000 on this renovation, shows his commitment to the team, and it was money that he didn't necessarily have to spend, but I think he realized he wanted to spend and needed to spend. What are your thoughts on what you guys saw? Obviously, we've seen the video of the players coming in. They were all pretty jacked up and happy about it. TJ Lee said he thought he was going to cry. That's a guy that's been in that facility for a lot of years, and it must have been a shock for him to walk into that locker room for the first time.
I don't think you could have asked for a better bye week to start the season. I mean, like, you're basically took advantage of Tuesday, Wednesday, the first day 1, day 2 of the week, and you had 2 fabulous back-to-back days. You opened the practice facility, you had all the great reaction videos, you had Baker kind of touring you around and stuff like that. And as you said, Ryan, it's just like, what doesn't Amar Doman do for this team, this community? Because it's not only the BC Lions, he's trying to like impact the football community around. You see him out at the flag football events, that sort of stuff, trying to, his kids involved, right? So he's trying to make it better for his kids and stuff like that. And it's just, it's awesome, right? The uniforms, the concert kickoffs, all the announcements, there's truly nobody doing it better than the Lions in terms of like the resources that are put into the team, the kind of stuff that's put out by the team. So it was just awesome. And it was really exciting to kind of kick off the year when you're not playing in week 1 and you got all these things to look forward to, all the announcements and stuff. It was really awesome.
I think the biggest thing for me, like, I remember my first experience ever being inside that BC Lions training facility locker room. Damon Allen was quarterback. And I was all of, I think, 9 or 10 years old. And then I got an opportunity to go back into it when they had a sale there, when they do the year-end season ticket holder sale in like 2016. And I was like, this looks the exact same. And we're talking like at that point, that would have been over 15 years of a difference there. And to see what they've now created there, you went from looking like a high school locker room in a lot of ways, what you typically see in a high school, to now looking like a professional locker room. And you have the facilities. And I get that they moved the gym to the outside on the field now, and all the guys love it. They get this kind of California vibe workout area, which is great for the summer months before it starts really raining and some of the other things that happen later on in the fall here around the lower mainland. But overall, I think this, again, to you guys' point, like this shows how much Amar cares about this organization, about making it a top class organization within the league itself. And he puts his money where his mouth is, and he delivers. And that's what I think the biggest thing is, where in the past we haven't necessarily seen that.
Yeah, when you contrast it with David Braley, I mean, rest in peace, David Braley, but he basically paid the bills.
Yep.
Didn't put a lot of investment into the team. And you'll get some people saying, oh, whenever we asked David Braley for something, he gave it to us. Well, he didn't give you this. That practice facility was, it was basically in poor shape when Braley was around for his whole tenure. So, Amar Doman is a different breed, and we're very lucky to have Amar Doman. You guys have played football. Just how important is morale in a locker room? I mean, is this a big morale booster for this team? This is a place where they can come and hang out after practice and cook a meal together and play some ping pong and just hang out and shoot the shit, watch a game together. It's gotta be a big morale booster for the club.
Bryce, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, sure. I can take this one. Yeah, like it is 100%. Like if you have an area where your teammates and you can kind of hang out, and to your point there, Brian, shoot the shit and so on, like it builds that camaraderie, it builds that brotherhood amongst you and makes you a family more than anything, right? And when you don't have that and the locker room isn't a place you really want to hang out because it's kind of dreary and depressing in a lot of ways, guys end up going out and you don't necessarily get that because you start to develop sometimes cliques, not by purpose, but just on coincidence because certain guys live in certain buildings together. So, hey, 3 or 4 guys live in a certain tower or in Langley. So they just go and hang out in Langley. And now guys are having to commute more to hang out and do things where it's like, hey, the locker room's great. It's a space. They've got that lounge area in there. There's TVs. There's, like you said, a place to cook food. Like, guys may just be like, hey, yeah, let's just hang out here for, the next couple hours and just, chill out and talk or whatever and shoot the shit. It allows you to become everybody on that team, all the positional groups, to kind of commingle more and create more of that unity that you want.
Yeah, we got a peek behind the curtains a little bit. I believe a few years ago on Arrow Up, right, when they were doing like the 4 squares, I believe, in the locker room and stuff. And like now you're going to be able to, put a ping pong leaderboard up in the locker room or something like that. And you bring the Xbox and you guys are playing Madden after practice on the chairs and stuff. As you said, cook, offensive. We did quarterback offensive lineman dinners after walkthroughs on Fridays, right? And stuff like that, where the guys are going to be able to do that right from the facility. So I think it'll be huge and just go a long way, especially like we said too, right? Like this is temporary. What will come from the permanent one, right? Where it's maybe bigger, better. They can learn, hey, we can tweak this kind of aspect of the locker room. It's also not just the camaraderie stuff. We saw all the recovery stuff, right? The cold tubs, all that stuff that were added. The much more space for the guys. They're not just cramped up into one room. They got a few tables. The guys can get taped. They can go into the tubs. So it's awesome for sure.
Yeah. Kudos to the organization and to Amar Doman for that. I think it's going to be a big boost for the players for sure, making the best of a situation that's not the best, but it's a lot better than it used to be now. Okay, let's move on. Jerseys, Pacific Frost. Okay, like I'll be the first to admit, when I first saw the video, I was like, I didn't like the silver helmets back then, and I don't like the silver helmets now. I wasn't a fan of that jersey or that uniform combination back in the day. It reminds me of like bad owners, and it just brings back some bad memories. I just didn't like it. I had to watch the video a few times to kind of get my head around what they're going for, and I do like it now. I think it's pretty clean. All the reviews I've seen from it, people seem to love it, except if you're a play-by-play guy and they're already complaining that they're not going to be able to read the numbers. But the play-by-play guys don't sell jerseys, so
tell Moj to up the subscription on the glasses, I guess.
Yeah, get your binoculars, Moj. I like them. I got a bone to pick, but I'm going to get your guys' comments first. And let's start with you, Cole.
Yeah, I'm a little similar to Bryce on this one. I love the helmets. The helmets is what got it for me. I think the uniform is a little bit plain, which I think is good though. When you have something like a silver helmet with a silver pant, and you kind of make it a nice clean look with the jersey. The one thing that I would like to see is just the whether it's going to be BC Lions or Lions. Bryce, I heard you talking about that before the show. An orange pop, I think, would be nice with the orange accent around the white or silver lettering. I think would look really nice. That being said, of course, I can't ask for everything, so I'll take this one. I know Brian's going to talk about something I would love to, or I agree with very much. But for me, I loved them. I think an all white look and a little bit of gray is nice.
So, like, for me, I love the silver helmet. It's the Lions helmet I grew up with. Like, I remember Danny Mac when it had the orange stripe down the middle. Like, that was one of my first memories of the Lions in that era of jerseys. Damon Allen, Dave Dickinson, and that group. So that's kind of what I grew up with. So for me, it wasn't, I didn't really care about owners at that point, Brian. Unfortunately, I'm just young enough not to have to worry about that. But it was some really exciting football because it was the start of the G. Roy Simon, obviously era in BC. I like the look because, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, it has a very much a Raiders feel to it with the silver pants, the white jersey, and the silver. And it is a look that hasn't gone out of style. And the Raiders have kept that going for eons, and it looks so clean now. For me, I can see the difficulty with a silver number. I think they did a good job of outlining with orange, so it's kind of bright enough that you might be able to pick it up. And especially on the white jersey, it does contrast. My only bone to pick is that font in the front where it says BC Lions. Like, I would have liked to just see it as an orange, like how they've got the nameplate on the back, then the lettering is an orange. Just make that orange so it at least stands out, because that's harder to see without having any outline around it. Mm-hmm. I do like the helmet though. I love the silver, even the gray face mask, not putting a different color face mask, just it's all one color. And I like it also because I think it contrasts to the jersey you're wearing and the all black look that they have with the black helmet, black jersey, black pants. Now you've got a complete contrast when you're on the road. And I just think it makes the whole uniform, and that looks like it's at a different standard than some of the other ones in the CFL.
Yeah, I think we all knew it was going to be white when they made the original cryptic post. I do agree with the lettering across the chest. I think it should have been orange. Now, the bone I have to pick with all of this is, once I decided I like this jersey, I was like, okay, I'm going to head over to bclions.com and I'm going to order myself a jersey. First of all, you can't just order any jersey. All they had was Nathan Rourke. I mean, I've already got a Nathan Rourke jersey. I don't need another one. So I was thinking of getting myself a Hatcher jersey or maybe a Betts jersey or something like that. Couldn't do it. Limited quantities. You can only get this jersey. That's it. So then I was looking at it again and I was like, wait a minute. The lettering's black. Why is the lettering black on the fan jerseys, but it's silver on the player jerseys? That makes no sense to me. Fans want to wear what the players are wearing. It's like that in every league. And look, I get the difference between authentic and replica. They don't offer an authentic jersey, but even authentic jerseys aren't going to be the same as what the players wear. The material's thicker on the player jerseys. It's just a different type of construction on a player jersey for reasons that they don't tear and all the rest of it. I don't expect to be able to buy a player jersey. I just want whatever jersey is being offered to look like what the players are wearing. It's like that in the NFL. It's like that in the NHL. I don't know for the life of me who came up with this and thought it was a good idea. I sent customer service for the BC Lions an email today. They said, yep, if you want the silver, you have to buy an authentic game used jersey. Well, first of all, you can't even do that until the end of the year. Second of all, game worn jerseys don't fit me. Like they're so tight. Like, unless I'm getting like Jarrell Broxton's jersey, it's probably not going to fit me, and I'm still going to have to stretch it on me. So like, I don't get that whole thing. And the other thing that irks me is the Lions in the past couple of years have gone away from stitch numbers. You do not have the option to get a stitch number on a Lions jersey unless you go third party. You buy a blank jersey, you take it somewhere, they can match the number up and they'll do it for you. And I've had a couple guys message me today saying, this is where I get mine done, and the hockey shop in Langley. And I used to take my jerseys to the hockey shop and they did a good job. And Aaron, who now is the equipment guy for the Lions, used to work there and he used to do them for me because he did all the Lions jerseys at that time. So he had all the official patches and numbers and everything, and it was great. I used to go there all the time. But even not going through Aaron, the Lions used to offer a pro stitched option, which you would send away, and they would send it out and get it done and bring it back. And they don't offer it anymore. So I asked a few people on Twitter today, does your team still offer pro stitch jerseys? I got a reply from a Bomber fan that says not only do they offer pro stitch jerseys, they offer them for the same price as a heat press jersey. You don't pay extra for it. They send it out. It takes 2 to 3 weeks. Comes back pro stitched. You can get all the sponsor patches if you want, which I would never do. I would never put sponsor patches on my jersey. But like, it's when it comes back, it's as close as to a player's jersey as you can get it. No extra charge. That is the way things should be done. And even if I had to pay an extra $25-$30 for pro stitching and the shipping and all the rest of it, I would do it because I have at least 2 jerseys in my closet right now where the numbers are peeling off because they're heat pressed. So that's my rant. If the Lions are watching, I love your jersey. Don't love the process, the planning of it for fans. I will not be buying one of those jerseys because I'm a guy that likes my jersey to look like what's on the field. So,
yeah, I got to agree with you, Brian. For me, it's the same thing. Like, as soon as I saw him come out, I was like, yeah, I need to get this jersey. Like, it's awesome. It's unique. It's definitely kind of like almost like a throwback with a modern twist. And then the minute you put that on Twitter and I looked at it and I went, that is not the same jersey I am looking at in the video. I went, I'm not putting out the money. And they're, I think, $229
yep,
or it's $230, for the jerseys. And like, again, you guys know this. I'm a Seahawks guy. I have tons of Seahawks jerseys. I have never once seen the Seahawks replica or, stitched option look anything different than what is on the field. Doesn't matter if it's the throwback, if it's the, new rivalries, whatever, it looks the exact same. So you feel like you're wearing what you're seeing. And that's the whole objective of wearing the jersey. I hope personally that enough people kind of mention this to the Lions that they correct this and they make it look the same, because there's nothing worse than bringing out a new thing like this and getting everyone excited only for fans to realize they're getting basically cheaped out of not getting the real product or, as close as they can to the real product. Because the way I looked at that jersey, and I hate to say it, it looked like if I went to buy a jersey off of Temu. Like, here's the Lions real jersey. This is the Temu version that you're going to pay. And it comes and you go, why is this black? Why is this like, I don't know. Cole, you might, feel the same way, but I think that's just such a disservice to the fans.
Yeah. I think the thing for me is that there's no black anywhere on the jersey. So it sticks out like a sore thumb when you have the black BC Lions, and it just doesn't look right. As you said, Bryce, that it's good actually kind of analogy to say like it looks like Temu, because it does. It sticks out like a sore thumb. It doesn't look great. And not to just beat a dead horse because you guys have said it beautifully, but I definitely agree and hope that kind of, with using our platform as well, that it gets back to the Lions and they're able to kind of correct things and maybe make it better.
And they didn't show a rear version of the jersey online either. They only showed the front. So who knows if the name on the back is black?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good point.
It should be orange based on what they showed us in the video, but it may end up with a black name on the back too.
To maybe turn this a little bit positive for a second, I see a couple of comments in here, and this is what we were chatting about on the weekly show earlier. Can the Lions pull out a couple of different combinations with this, Brian? Do you know how the rules work in terms of if they're allowed to wear them with, like, say, silver helmet home jersey?
I assume they could. I mean, they've mixed and matched in previous seasons. I mean, we saw the black jerseys with the black pants. We saw the black jerseys with the gray pants. We saw the fogs with the black and the gray. I don't think there's any restrictions on what combinations they can do.
I would love to see the silver with black. I think it would look pretty clean.
Yeah. I don't know if they'll do that though, because the way they're marketing this,
Yeah,
but you never know.
I believe they'll be the second team to have 2 different helmets. I think for the most part, everybody other than Sask, when they wear their that other weird green one, only wears one helmet, if I'm not mistaken.
Unless they're going to wear the silver helmets and the gray pants with the black jersey at home.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm wondering too.
Yeah.
I think the silver helmet, black jersey, silver pants would be
Silver
a
pants,
very,
yes.
very, very clean look for
yes.
them. I'd love to see that combo. And if I go back to when they announced the jerseys, like the current, or I guess now the past, but the fogs and the blacks, I think that first year they just wore them exclusively how they were to be worn, like the gray pants, gray jersey, black and black. It wasn't until I think 2024 in that they started that mix and match where you saw the black jersey with the gray pants and vice versa. But I think, you know, this is maybe that's also why they pivoted a little bit. I think too is, you know, this new jersey I think allows you a little bit more of a cleaner look between the transition if you want to do combos. Like that silver helmet does go well with black, where the gray fog I think kind of, because it was more of a matte kind of look, is a little bit different than white. White's just a cleaner overall look.
I think we will see them at home at some point this year. They'll probably play a home game in those uniforms as well. I wouldn't be surprised if when they came back to BC Place for the first time on July 25th against the Argos, if they were wearing those whites.
I just thought of it. I thought of an interesting fact with that, Brian, to what you brought up there about them wearing it as a home. What if they decide to wear those in Kelowna because of the heat? Hey, we'll wear our Pacific Frosts. I would not want to be the equipment guy with the grass field.
Yeah.
It's going to be very, it'll turn into a green jersey by the end of the game there.
I was going to say that earlier. Yeah, the equipment guys might not be loving these whites. They're going to spend a lot of money on stain removers. But yeah, you're right. If it's going to be hot up there, the whites would be a smart play and force Calgary and Edmonton to go to their darks. All right. Well, that's my little rant about the uniforms. I mean, like you say, hopefully we'll see some changes to that down the road, but it is what it is for now. But sorry, Lions, I won't be buying one unless it looks like what the players are wearing. Okay. Let's go into the CFL Top 50, TSN's Top 50. This is something like power rankings that gets everybody's ire up. My player's not on there. Why does my team only have so many players? I've got a list here that we can kind of look at. Let me change some stuff out here. All right, so here's the CFL's Top 50. The way I kind of look at this is it's based on how you played last year and heading into this season. Were you a top 50 player? For instance, Nathan Rourke was number 7 on this list last year. He wins MOP. He didn't win the Grey Cup, but he wins MOP, he wins MOC, and he's ranked number 1. Bo Levi Mitchell finished runner-up to Nathan Rourke. He's ranked number 2, and so on and so on and so on. Your guys' thoughts on this list? I mean, Brady Oliveira was 1. He dropped down to 7. He basically swapped spots with Nathan Rourke. There's always going to be players. I mean, all 3 of us could come up with a 50-player list, and it would be vastly different probably. And it's just a matter of your personal opinions. And this is the list that was compiled by multiple media members across the Canadian Football League. And even some of their players, like I know JC Abbott said, these are the players that I had on my ballot that didn't even make the list. So, and John Hodge did the same thing. What do you guys think about the list? Any surprises, any omissions that you think should have been there?
I'll say one I'll say my piece here, and I think I messaged you guys earlier about it, but Chad Kelly, in my opinion, shouldn't be on this list. He didn't even really play last year.
Didn't play at all last year.
Yeah, so like, how do you put him at number 24 on that list when he didn't take a snap last year? Like, there's guys that I think got left off from JC's list and that should obviously be on this because they actually played. Like, that's where, if you're going to say the top 50 players in the CFL from last season, playing in the season might be a really good indicating category part of that, being like, hey, you need to actually have played to be on this list. And to put him at the midway point, to me, I just think, like, who's making these lists? Like, that just, to me, just makes it hard for me to find a lot of the list credible. Like, I believe Nathan and a lot of the guys where they are, but when you put someone that didn't play, had as much obviously controversy surrounding them at the spot, like, okay, you want to put Chad Kelly on the list? Okay, put him at 50. Like, you can still maybe sneak him in there. But like, when you look at, like, you know, when the NFL used to do their top 100 players of the past season, if guys were hurt or didn't play, they didn't make the list. So when I see Chad Kelly at 24, it just, I don't know, it makes me question a lot of things about how this list was built.
Yeah, they like to do the little honorable mention slide as well. Like, throw him in there. I agree with Bryce. Like, he didn't play last year. I think it's a little bit ridiculous, in my opinion. That being said, I know these lists are tending to kind of, you know, engage with viewers and wanting to get spark conversation, all that sort of stuff. I think that's kind of a little bit of the problem with a consensus list, because it's not truly everybody's list. It's just a compiled, basically, data research. For me, there was a few, definitely. Chad Kelly was an eye raiser. I know JC and Hodge both mentioned it, but Jonah Tavai for me is a guy that I thought was a top 50 player last year. I know he hasn't had a full healthy season in his CFL career over the last 2 years. I believe in maybe like 25, 30 games over the last 2 years. He has like, I think it's like 7 or 8 sacks. So it's nothing like gaudy or kind of these eye-popping numbers. But when you look at an interior defensive lineman, that's not really his job. His job is to really kind of do a lot of the dirty work and free up Matthew Betts a lot of the time as well, right? And I think Jonah Tavai is a guy, like, if you're a BC Lions fan, Jonah Tavai is making a lot of plays that are like either taking on double teams, he's creating havoc in the backfield, he's creating pressures. So for me, I think maybe just another year of production, another year of kind of getting his name out there, especially with guys like JC and Hodge. I would think with a healthy season, he'll be on the list next year. But other than that, I think, as Brian said, every fan base is going to have the up in arms, like, oh, well, why wasn't my guy this high? And why wasn't he this high? So it's a bummer, but I was right there with everybody, all excited at 5:00 yesterday on my couch, ready to watch the top 50, the betting show and the season preview. So they did their job.
I think when you, like, I saw Ottawa fans complaining that they didn't have many players. You were 4-14 last year.
Yeah.
Like, I know you got Geno Lewis and all the rest of it, but, like, come on, you were 4-14. You look at this list, I think Davis Alexander is probably a little low at 9. I mean, when he's healthy, the guy hasn't lost a CFL game yet. I mean, that's talent, right?
Well, CFL regular season game, Brian.
Yeah.
Right.
He's lost to play.
Right. Yeah. He was lost in the Grey Cup. But I think he should have been a little bit higher, but then you look at who's ahead of him and you can't really argue too much.
Well, and I think with Alexander, I think one of my biggest things with it, like, I think he's actually perfectly situated where he is, because durability is not his friend right now. Like, he can't stay healthy. So you played 11 games. I get it. You won, 11 regular season games without losing, but there's how many regular season games? Like, he missed a good chunk of the year where maybe he loses a few games in there. We're having a different discussion potentially, but if he can be healthy all of this season, there's no reason in my mind next year when we're sitting here doing this that he's not up there with a Nathan Rourke and Bo Levi Mitchell in that conversation as one of the top 3. That's jumping at Trevor Harris. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. One guy that I was surprised kind of fell as far as he did was Justin McInnes. Sitting at 12, going from, 6 last year down to 12 this year, like, I didn't think he had that far of a decline from his previous season.
I think a lot of people were a little bit, maybe like they took too much into account, like the slow start from Justin last year. People kind of remember, like, that was Nathan kind of coming back. They took a little bit of time and he really, like, took off. And I don't even say took off because I feel like that's unfair, but got back to the level of play. And I think people kind of wrote him off and didn't realize, like, he was 3rd in the CFL in receiving last year. He was still Justin McInnes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, these lists are crapshoots, right? You can't really, like, if we each made our own list, they would be vastly different. So It is what it is. But it's always good for discussion anyway, and gets people going, just like power rankings, which we are now going to unveil our preseason power rankings. And when we decided to do this, we sent each other our power rankings, and Bryce and I think were identical, and Cole had Montreal and Calgary swapped. So we went with Montreal and Calgary in this order. I think Bryce and I had them reversed, but I could make a case for Montreal. I could make a case for Calgary. So we're going with the champs at number 1, going with the Lions at number 2. We're going with Montreal at 3, Calgary at 4, Hamilton, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Ottawa, and last but not least, the Toronto Argonauts. Now, power rankings, let me remind everybody, are what have you done for me lately? Okay. It doesn't mean like BC is that much better than Calgary, but based on how the season ended last year, and if I'm saying that, I guess Montreal should be ahead of BC because they were in the Grey Cup, but I just think the West Division is a little stronger than the East Division this year. So we're going with the 3 teams in the top 4. Your guys' comments.
Bryce, you want to go first?
You go ahead, Cole.
Okay. I think these obviously always stir up a lot of comments, engagement. One that you guys mentioned there that I think a lot of people are we talked about in our group chat sleeping on is I think the Calgary Stampeders. And we did our weekly picks with the other guys, and it was a clean sweep for is it Winnipeg? I believe Winnipeg, Calgary on a Friday night. Everybody had Winnipeg and kind of are still a little bit skeptical on Calgary. And for me, especially when I saw Jalen Hutchins come back, and I know people are a little bit concerned because he did get released, to confirm he did get released, folks, because of injury, and I understand that. I do believe he's still, I want to say on the injury report, either questionable or he's not 100% locked in to play week 1. But when you look at, I think Calgary might have the best defense in the CFL like this year. When you look at, they're going to load up with Hicks, Hutchinson, Flo, and Lade, arguably the best 3-man wave that could, is sent at you in the CFL. Their linebacking core is super deep. When you look at kind of, they can go with their Canadian guys, they can kind of go with some of their American guys. In the secondary, I think, is where they are really slept on, and a lot of the names in that. So I think Calgary's gonna have a good year. I know VA is kind of still, there's a lot of question marks surrounding him, and can he put it together for a full 18-game season? But I think, as Bryce just said, there's question marks around Davis Alexander, and can he do it for a full 18-game season, right? So when VA is in there, he's an MOP caliber quarterback. The other one that kind of sticks out to me, I think, is Hamilton. And how do you really gauge, last year it was pretty much Kenny Lawler, Bo Levi Mitchell, little bit of Keandre Smith sprinkled in, or bust, because their defense was crap. Their running game was kind of, it was effective with Greg Bell, but I don't think they kind of abandoned it at times and really turned into a one-dimensional attack, and it worked a lot of times, right? They got a lot of wins, finished first in the East last year. But when you look at their defense, and people are kind of telling me that, Wintick McManus is going to solve all their issues, I don't know if I'm sold on that, number 1. And then you look at number 2, Wintick McManus is not in the lineup to start the season.
Week 1,
so that's big question mark. As Bryce knows, if you limp into the season, you're likely not getting healthy in the middle of the season, right? That's a hard thing to do, to try to find and try to get your body back to 100% when you're going week after week. So I still have a ton of question marks about Hamilton's defense. I think their offense will be able to keep them in a lot of games, keep them competitive. But when you look at Montreal, I think Montreal is the much better, well-rounded team in the East. So those would be a couple of teams for me, and I'd be curious to hear what Bryce has to say.
So, Calgary, I agree. I think everyone's sleeping on Calgary. I think Calgary may be the team that might have the opportunity to start the fastest in the West, because BC and Saskatchewan do beat up on each other in week 2. And then Montreal, I think they're the power in the East right now. Maybe Toronto can crawl back into that conversation with a, healthy Chad Kelly. The other 2 that I'm interested in is Winnipeg and Edmonton. I was struggling with those 2 and where to put them, because I look at Winnipeg, and I get they made the playoffs last year, but I look at them kind of pushing all the chips into the table a little bit right now with what they did in free agency, They do have a very much of an aging group there. Zach Collaros, we don't know how many more years he's got left, and some of those guys there. Edmonton, on the other hand, with Cody running the show there, they looked a little bit more resurgent towards the back end of the season last year. And it looks like they're growing on that. And they're getting, with McSimic there, and now he's got more of a quarterback, I think, that fits what he wants to do offensively. I would say Edmonton's a very deep sleeping team that, I could put them at 6 and feel confident in it. It'll be interesting to see how this kind of all shakes out early on. And like you kind of led with here, Brian, these are power rankings. These aren't who we like the best or anything like that. It's just kind of where off of last season we see these teams to start the season. By week 3, these could all be flopped on their head, and we could have Toronto as the number 1 team and Saskatchewan at the bottom potentially. Who knows? But I think the one thing when I look at all of these teams up here, the one thing I will say is I think, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm a homer here, but BC has just such continuity with their roster over the majority of the teams below them. I think that makes a huge difference for them to have the opportunity to start fast, and Saskatchewan being their biggest obstacle.
Yeah. I agree with Calgary. I think they're going to be a sleeper. I think they're going to be a nasty piece of business in the West this year to get past. And VA always starts fast. I'm shocked that you're saying that everybody on your panel took Winnipeg. Like I am absolutely shocked by that. The game's in Calgary too, isn't it?
Brian, to preference this, Brian, and not to throw all the boys under the bus, because I love the boys. They had Ottawa, the Ottawa Red Blacks, at 4 on our power rankings. Okay. Now we did the same thing. We did a consensus vote. We all put our power rankings in. I put the exact same list in. I was overwhelmed apparently, and Ottawa came in at 4 on our power rankings. So the boys they got some beliefs this year, you could say, Brian.
Oh, Ottawa should be improved, but I think it's going to take them a while to gel. Yeah, I mean, I like I say, I like Calgary. I think the whole West Division is just like if you can't stay healthy in the West, you're probably not gonna you're done because it's just so close from top to bottom. I think Edmonton's going to be much better. I think Winnipeg is making that final push. I think they've added some nice pieces. I mean, their offensive line is a nasty piece of business. It's going to bully people around. Stanley Bryant and Jarrell Broxton on that line. Neufeld's still there. They've got a pretty formidable offensive line, and with Brady Oliveira, if you're sealing off those edge rushers and Zach can sit back there and pass the ball, dangerous. Zach can still throw. It's whether he can stay healthy. That's the big question for them, because I don't think, as much as everybody's on the Taylor Elgersma bandwagon, I think he's going to need some seasoning and some grooming.
Oh.
So, I think if Collaros can stay healthy, the Bombers are in there. So yeah, I mean, these are our initial power rankings. We're gonna probably do this every week if Bryce keeps updating the graphic. And
I got you guys.
And we're not going to be homers. I mean, if the Lions suck, they're going to drop. We're not going to sit here and say, oh, BC's high and when they don't deserve to be. We're going to give our true opinions on the way things are going, and power rankings are power rankings. Just because, I look at power rankings as a weekly thing. Who's the top 9 teams this week? Not over the last 2 weeks, but over this week, who are the top 9 teams? That's how I look at it. But, and that's why I don't get so upset when teams go up and down. I prefer to look at it as a weekly thing and go from there.
They're meant for this too. They're meant to kind of stir things up and watch teams go up and down the power rankings a little bit. So I think we did a pretty good job for our first one, to be honest.
All right. Let's see if we can get some fan questions in here. Bob Medill says, I'm of the view that Taylor Powell will be the starter for EE by the season's end. Very well could be if Cody gets hurt. Very well could be if Cody doesn't get hurt. I'm on the record as saying I think Cody Fajardo is a good quarterback, but he's not an elite quarterback. If the I said it again, if the Elks start to struggle, I wouldn't be surprised if Taylor Powell got a look. But I think they're going to be very committed to Cody Fajardo early, and Cody's a good quarterback. If he gets protection and they've got some good receivers there, they can do some damage too. I don't know if Taylor Powell is quite ready to be a starter yet. He struggled pretty badly, I think, in their last preseason game against Calgary, so he's got some work to do there. But the Stamps were good in preseason too. They only allowed 18 points in both their games.
Yeah, I think the thing with Edmonton, we talked about this a few weeks ago when we had the Turf District guys on, is like they did, I think, improve. It's just like, and Brian, you're 100% right when you talked about like all 5 teams, if injuries kind of don't come into play, could make the playoffs. I think with Edmonton's case is like if everybody does stay healthy, like as much as you did improve, who do you jump other than Winnipeg? I think we kind of feel, obviously by our power rankings, if Sask, BC, and Calgary stay healthy, those are kind of the top 3 teams, I would think, in the West. Now, obviously, that's a big if with injuries, and that's going to happen this year. It's 100% injury rate in football. But I think those are the 2 teams that are kind of very interesting to see how they kind of ride out the season, because at their high end, they are definitely playoff teams, but there's only 3 spots, or maybe 4 if a crossover team comes into play again.
7 Mile Beat 604 says our new locker room is good for at least 2 wins this year too. Room will help make us better. Quite possible. Comfortable players, happy players generally tend to perform better. And then Bunk Toozy was asking if the locker rooms at the stadium are being renovated too. I believe those are already done, and it was basically just new showers and a few touch-ups here and there for the World Cup players. I don't think the Lions are getting a new, fully updated locker room for the World Cup. I think it's just the facilities like the showers and surrounding areas that have been spruced up a little bit. All right. Does anybody have any questions they want to throw in here before we get out of here? We're coming up on an hour, just past an hour for the show. This is a bye week for the Lions, of course. So we've talked about all we can talk about. I think if anybody else wants to throw some topics in, we'll give you a couple minutes here. Let's go with let's do some quick predictions here for the first week of the season. Tomorrow night we got Hamilton and Montreal. I'm going with the Owls on that one.
I got Montreal as well. I think they're the much better, well-rounded team, and as long as Davis Alexander's healthy, I think they're going to be a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah, it's a clean sweep for me, Montreal.
Okay. Winnipeg at Calgary. I think everybody knows where I'm going with this one. I'm picking the Stampeders at home. I think Vernon Adams is going to start quickly again, and that defense, man, when I heard they were getting Hutchins back, I was like, damn it. That guy's a stud, man. And even with Flo back, they're going to be a nasty piece of business. So I'm going with the Stamps at home over the Bombers.
Clean sweep, I think.
I'm going Winnipeg.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Talk about it a little bit, maybe, Bryce.
Here's the thing. When I look at with what Winnipeg is trying to do, and Tim Smith being there is another weapon now for Zach Collaros to use, and I think they all are kind of aware of how quickly they need to start in Winnipeg to keep pace throughout the season with BC and Saskatchewan. I feel like they're going to come in guns blazing. This is going to be a shootout, and in a shootout, I get VA's got a lot of the explosive plays in him, but he's also really prone to the mistakes. And I think Zach does a better job at protecting the ball in critical situations. I think this game's going to be back and forth. I don't think there's going to be a lot of defense in it. And I think somehow VA potentially has a moment where he has a fumble or throws a bad pick and Winnipeg's able to capitalize. And I don't think it'll be a situation where when we see these 2 teams play again, that'll be the same situation, but it's early on enough in the season, obviously being the first game, that I think Winnipeg might just be able to pull this one out.
Yeah, I like what you said about the urgency. I think they definitely sense that it's been said, I feel like the last few years, but this is, you would think, the last kick at the can for a lot of those veterans and kind of like, hey, we got the band somewhat back together for one more run. Let's try to go at it. But the West is just going to be a dogfight every week, I feel like.
Okay. Last game, unfortunately, there's only 3 games this week. Is Edmonton at Ottawa. I think I like the Elks in this one. I just feel like they really realize the urgency of getting off to a better start. This is the second year under Mark Killam, second year with Cody Fajardo and Jordan Maximic working together from, well, first year of them working together from the get-go instead of halfway through a season. And I like what they did in free agency. I think even though they added a lot of guys on their offensive line, those guys have played together before in Hamilton. So I don't think there's going to be that big adjustment period that you often see when you bring in a lot of guys that take a while to gel together. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Elks on this one.
I think I got to go with the Elks on this one too, guys. I just, like I said earlier, I think with Fajardo there, I think what they're building there, they're starting to get, the momentum going. And Hervey I believe he came out this offseason and said they will be in the playoffs. So
very emphatically.
They got to start fast. Like, that's the thing that's so fascinating, I think, for the first month of this season is going to be the West and who's able to actually really seize some control early on, that when we look back at the end of the year, go, yeah, you see these first 3 games here, this made the difference in the division at the end of the year.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the Elks as well. Excuse me. I think to talk about Ottawa, I guess, is just I have so many questions still about them. Like, their defense, I think, did improve with some of the moves that they made with bringing over basically a bunch of Saskatchewan guys, AJ Allen, CJ Rivas. I think they had some young guys in the secondary last year that took some bumps and bruises in their first year in the CFL. I think their defense will improve, but I am not sold on their quarterback situation. And I think it's a quarterback-driven sport. Can they produce enough on offense? I think it's going to be the big question. We saw last year they really just depended on Drew Brown to pass the ball, and they didn't really have any sort of a run game. I know they bring in Greg Bell. We'll see what that's able to kind of introduce for their offense and how they're going to be able to threaten opposing defenses. But I think, as you guys said, I think Edmonton's going to be a very competitive team all year.
All right, got a question for Bob and Dill. What kind of evolution do we see in year 2 of Buck's offensive scheme and play calling in year 2? I think we're going to see not a much different offense, but I think it's going to allow Buck Pierce to make it a little more complicated because he's had a whole offseason to work with Nathan Rourke. I think we're going to see stuff that we've never seen before out of the Lions. Nathan referenced that they're going to be adding a bunch of new stuff this year because they were able to install it over the offseason and already know what Buck's tendencies are and what he likes to do. I think we're going to see more of a 2-pronged running attack with Butler and Horvath this year. If they can get both of those guys going in a game, that's going to be tough for defenses to stop because you've got 2 guys that can pound the rock right up the middle and keep defenses tired. So I think most of all, it's just going to be a familiarity with Buck and Nathan that's going to be very beneficial for the Lions offense.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see what happens in terms of the evolution of the offense. I think, as you mentioned, just being able to build off some of that stuff. Bryce, as you know, going into the offseason and self-scouting yourself. Folks, this was arguably the most efficient offense in CFL history. I believe they were one of the most efficient offenses in CFL history last year. So it's crazy to think that they could even get better from that. But when you think of Nathan Rourke, under 40 starts as a CFL starter, he's going to get better, which is crazy to think of. They're going to be able to build on what they established last year and kind of have that strong foundation already. Now, I don't think the identity of the offense will change too much. It was pretty much we saw a lot of the same kind of concepts, I guess you could say, coming from Winnipeg, right? With the kind of the heavy inside zone, getting JB downhill, but you also have kind of some of that outside and getting him outside the tackle. But you introduce kind of that east-west attack when you bring in some of those guys on the slice motion. You put it in the gut of the running back, you kind of bring it out, and you have that receiver kind of coming to the backside, and you're attacking them in all assets. You're not only going north-south downhill, you're attacking them east-west. So I'm just really expecting them to build on what they kind of established last year and really hopefully bring out some tricks, right? Some of the staples that they had last year, kind of set some stuff up off of that, right? Where teams are kind of looking into some of your tendencies and kind of you're able to bring in some of these tendency breakers this year. So I'm really excited to see what they're able to do.
When I look at this and I look at what the evolution could be for Buck in this offense, I think you're going to see maybe some more full field reads built into this passing game, which I think last year they didn't have a lot because they were trying to get the basis down, understand what Buck was trying to do with the RPO, the inside zone, and what they were doing off of it. And it's kind of, I think you can almost go and look at what Buck did in Winnipeg with Zach Collaros and such, where you could kind of see where the evolution went, and then all of a sudden the over routes and all these other things where they started to become more of a full field read passing attack, and their drop back game really started to take off, and you started to see Zach sling that ball all over the field. Because initially at the beginning, when Zach came in there with, you know, LaPolice and Buck kind of calling the offense there, it was a lot of RPO heavy stuff that we saw last year. It was a lot of inside zone and those type of thing and quick hitters. I think now you'll see a development in the pass game. And the other thing I think you'll see is a smoother operation where plays are getting in. Nathan's more comfortable checking to certain things. Guys in general are more comfortable with what Nathan and Buck are going to be thinking at in certain situations when it's 2nd and 5 or, you know, 1st and 15. How are we going to manage these situations? I think that whole process will be a lot smoother in year 2.
Quicker play clock as well. So
Yep.
I think the Lions are like at their best when they're getting to the line quick and keeping teams off balance. So I would love to see a lot of hurry up and
great as Nathan Rourke's like is and all his abilities, his greatest ability might be like his processing ability, Brian. So like to kind of lean into that more, getting to the line and letting him process the defense for as long as he can is so important, right? And especially with like as Bryce said, right, with the quick hitters. Now, if he can kind of process a full field, is even more dangerous to think about too, right?
Yeah, I think on the other side of the ball, I'm interested to see how the Lions defense is coached up this year as well. I mean, Mike Benavides took a lot of heat last year, especially in the first half of the season. Defense got better in the second half when, you know, guys like Levi Bell showed up, TJ Lee came back. You know, the defense really came around, and then in the playoffs, we saw what happened in the Western Final. But I think with adding Mark Washington, that takes some pressure off Benny to kind of let other areas. Mark Washington's coaching the linebackers. That takes some pressure off Benny. He's got a guy he can trust on his staff. Ryan Phillips, another year wiser. Let's see what kind of lessons these guys have learned. You know, they know more about football than I'll ever know in my life. But I'm interested to see how the defense performs, especially early on, with some of the questions that we have. But I think there's a lot of continuity there, so that should help us as well. All right. I think that just about does it for us. Unless you guys have anything else you want to throw out there.
No, I think
I'm good.
Okay. Well, thanks for everybody that joined us tonight. Participated in the show. We'll be back next week with a game preview and probably a special guest. Haven't really worked that out yet. I am working on maybe getting the commissioner on, so we'll see if we can get that going. If you enjoy what we're trying to do here, please head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe. We're trying to grow the show. We're past 100 followers now. We gotta get those numbers up. You know, next year the DAZN's going to be looking for some content creators, from what I understand, and including them on their coverage. It would be great if they considered us as a Lions contributor for that. That'd be pretty cool. So the more followers we can get, the more subs we can get, the better chance we have of getting involved with something like that. As always, thanks for watching the show. If you're watching the replay or listening to the replay, we appreciate you as well. Still head over to that YouTube channel, hit that sub button. We'd really appreciate it. Until then, I'm Brian Warishin on behalf of Cole McGarvey and Bryce Coots. Thanks for watching, guys. And as always, roar you Lions, roar.